One of the greatest Latin hip-hop freestyle pop divas to come out of the 1980s music scene is the legendary Lisa Velez, also known as Lisa Lisa of the 80s supergroup Lisa Lisa and Cult Jam. We are here today to give our honest review of Lifetime's Lisa Lisa biopic. Can You Feel the Beat? The Lisa Lisa story that recently premiered in February 2025.
With hits like I Wonder If I Take You Home, Can You Feel the Beat, All Cried Out, Head to Toe, and Lost in Emotion, Lisa Lisa added the soundtrack to our lives in the 80s and 90s, and we were so excited to see her biopic. But is it worth the watch? That's what we're here to discuss.
I'm Heit.
And I'm Cheri.
And you've discovered Axiom Amnesia.
We want to thank all of the supporters who helped to make this video possible. If you want your name to appear alongside these contributors, make a one-time donation via Cash App, or you can head on over to patreon.com/axiomamnesia to enjoy all of the benefits of becoming a monthly subscriber. I was so excited when I saw that this film was coming out, and it just seemed to come out of nowhere. It was like, boom, I see an ad, and I'm like, oh man, Lisa Lisa.
That's how it should be done.
So we don't have to wait a year and like, it's coming out next month, finally, Maybe maybe that is how it should be done. But just in case, we are going to do a review. And even if you haven't seen the film, we're going to do a non-spoiler portion of the review. And then we'll get into the spoiler portion. We'll let you know so that we don't ruin it for you. But honestly, since this is a biopic, it's kind of like you still want to see it for yourself anyway. And you kind of know the story mostly. So it's, it's not ruining it in the same way if you go ahead and listen to the spoiler part of this review too. But we should start with a summary. So Lifetime explains that the film tells the story of global phenomenon Lisa Lisa, who paved the way for artists like Selena and Jennifer Lopez to shine. As a 15-year-old Puerto Rican girl from Hell's Kitchen, New York City, Lisa Velez endured sexism, racism, and hid her breast cancer diagnosis to become the first Latina artist to hit multiple music Billboard charts, including songs Can You Feel the Beat, All Cried Out, Lost in Emotion. And Lisa Lisa's constant companion through her tumultuous ride to the top was her best friend and backup singer, Toni Minaj. Toni's unwavering support helped Lisa learn how to take control of her professional and personal life. This true life story of two best friends who refuse to allow themselves to be destroyed by the entertainment business is filled with twists and turns and ends triumphantly as the two refuse to give up on their dreams. So that's how Lifetime describes it. And funny, because it's called the Lisa Lisa story, I never really thought about Toni.
Yeah.
As being like part of the story. But it's interesting that they wrote her in. And I feel like they should have.
And then in interviews, they went around and talk about how it's really both of their stories. So,
and the movie is really both of their stories, actually, And so did you have any initial first thoughts? Not too deep, but just,
First thoughts?
Yeah. About if you just kind of could sum up.
Well, so in general, they really didn't spend much time specifically on Full Force, right? And the song All Cried Out isn't in there. So, just generally, it's kind of like with all these biopics, especially with musicians, they're remaking the music and all this stuff. So it's some of those disappointments that are in there, right? But I didn't really know this story at all, right? So that was good that I actually got to see the story.
Yeah, that's how I felt. But I really did miss hearing All Cried Out because I remember being a kid and singing that song. But, we'll get to that more later. But yeah, so there was the cast, right? And the cast was played young, Lisa the whole time. The character Lisa is, I think her name is pronounced Ernest Corchado. I think I'm saying that right. And Toni Minaj is played by Breezy. And Lisa Lisa's mother is actually played by Lisa Lisa herself, Lisa Velez. And then the director was Tailiah Breon. So one of the things that Toni made sure to point out was that they had like an all-female, mostly female cast. But in addition to that, like the people working behind the scenes, they had a female team. And that was very important to them.
Right.
So let's get to our ratings. You all know that we do use this proprietary rating system that Heit has designed for us. And so we're going to go ahead and rate the film. And
Let's go.
let's see. What do I want to start with? I want to start, well, we might as well just say
Let's start with the sounds. This is
the
about
sounds.
music.
Okay, let's start with the sound. In sound, I'm going to give the sound like a 6. Reason being, because number one, the music itself, right? It was resung. It's not like I remember, and you can tell when you listen to these songs.
Oh
as a
yeah, you
kid
can definitely
and
tell.
played them over and over again. You could tell. And then this might seem a little nitpicky because I felt like this with one of the Whitney Houston movies. But when you know the song, the music so well, when somebody else sings it, I don't know how to explain it. But whoever did the vocals, and I should have gone back and looked to see who actually did the vocals, whether that was Ernest or not. But there's a certain thing where you're singing in the style of today, but singing you know what I mean? But singing an old song. And I could tell that, like, I felt like a new singer was singing an old song. And there's just something to the way the style was with the music, the way Lisa sung it, that was very
You have that, and
very
you
Hell's
have the
Kitchen.
whole auto-tune now. They just want to throw auto-tune on everything as if we can't identify auto-tune.
Yeah.
When we hear it, we know it's there.
Yeah.
Right? So, and the auto-tune isn't anything like the vocoders and stuff and voice boxes of the 80s. It's not the same sound. So it's very noticeable when you just throw an auto-tune on some vocals.
I just wanted to jump in here to encourage you to join our free Patreon tier. Yes, we have premium paid memberships on Patreon and YouTube channel members who get exclusive content, early releases, and other perks. But we are now also offering a free Patreon membership tier where you will get videos that are not offered to the general public on YouTube, where you get to watch the full movie along with us in our commentary. If you like what you see, you can join one of our paid membership tiers later, or you can just remain as a free member with no strings attached. This free Patreon membership does not give you access to all of the paid exclusive content and early releases that our premium Patreon and YouTube channel members enjoy, but we wanted a way to offer you a better viewing experience without many of the restrictions that we have on this platform. So come on over and join us on Patreon. The link is in the description. It's easy and free to join. You can simply log in with your Google or existing social media accounts and begin enjoying Axiom Amnesia's Patreon. Now back to the show. And it was weird because there's this like scene where she's trying out or whatever, so she doesn't have music accompanying her. But then it's like, I don't know, almost an auto-tuned.
It was it had
with reverb and everything
stuff.
on it. It was
You're supposed to be in this studio where you got it's very dead. It's going to be a very dead sound, and it's this crazy electronic reverb on the vocals, and it might have been even doubled. I don't remember, but yeah, they did that. The songs, they picked new songs that are in the style of old songs as part of the music
to
in
mix
here.
in.
Yeah.
And I'm guessing part of it was that they couldn't use like those songs written by Full Force or whatever.
Yeah, but it don't have to be. I'm just talking about other songs.
Oh, the other
right?
ones that were there. Mm-hmm.
You just can use music from but Lifetime, when you do Lifetime, it's a TV movie.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? It's not like a big screen film, right? So it's kind of what to be expected. But I don't think the sound was too bad. So, they can get a 7 at least. But
my sound score is mostly because of the disappointment. So you're rating it a 7. I feel like it's mostly because of the disappointment. My 6 of not hearing All Cried Out. Like when I say this, like y'all just don't understand. Like now, mind you, I was a child. I had not had any kind of real meaningful relationships, but I had the relationships of, you have the crush on the boy at school. And we were talking about this. We should talk about it more in depth, maybe in the spoiler review, but some of it is like All Cried Out, clearly an adult song, right? And she's talking about this relationship or whatever. But when I tell you that over the little boy at school, who even knows what his name was, but somebody you have this temporary crush on, I'm in like, 5th grade or something like that. And I'm singing All Cried Out with like all of my heart, and I needed to hear that song. I wanted the nostalgia. I wanted it to take me back. And it just wasn't there.
Yeah.
It just wasn't there. I was just really disappointed. Like, we couldn't even get a little taste. We couldn't even get a new song in the style of that song to make you think about it. You only got to see the words of the song where they were talking about, you know, her top hits and stuff.
Yeah.
But like, to me, that would be like talking about Whitney Houston without, you know, the greatest love of all, or
they've
I'll
done
always
some
love
without
you.
any of the music, so
Yeah, they have, but you know, I was just expecting something different, and maybe some of these movies, it's just better if, well, you knew because you saw ahead of time the interviews, so I think you had a better idea of what to expect maybe than I did.
What?
As far, because you knew it was going to. I didn't even know about Tony. I didn't even know who Tony was.
Yeah, but they don't say all the songs ain't in there because they're trying to get you to watch it.
They want you to watch it. Then the other thing is, I know it's Lifetime and stuff, but here's the other thing about the availability of the film. I feel like a lot of people didn't even know it was coming out. A lot of people don't even have Lifetime anymore,
right?
Because if you're on like YouTube TV or something like that, Lifetime is not
they
part
have
of
too
that.
many streaming services, and everybody is in their little corner with the one besides one of the big ones, right? They probably got one of the big ones and then some other thing, probably because it come part of your phone bill or some other stuff, some incentive that you got, right? So yeah, everybody don't get to see everything now, and a lot of stuff is suffering, right?
Yeah, because that sucks.
It.
Because back in the day, you know, Lifetime was just kind of part of your basic cable package. If you had the basic package, you were at least going to get Lifetime. You didn't have to have the premium HBOs and all that stuff.
Yeah,
you're going to be able to watch some Lifetime.
And a lot of things that came out, a lot of people saw it, right?
Yeah.
You could go into somebody and be like, did you see it? Yeah, I seen it, you know? And here we are now where we see things and most people haven't seen it.
Mm-hmm. I guess I'm going to talk about cinematography next. For cinematography, I feel like I'm going to give it a 9, actually.
What?
I think I liked, well, the opening scene, the way it opens, she's, you know, kind of dancing down the street. She's dressed in 80s clothes or whatever, you know, with leg warmers and whatever on. She has a Walkman and all, and she's kind of dancing and singing down the street. I liked the way that they filmed her. The actress, you know, always looked pretty beautiful throughout the movie. And I just like how they filmed, but I would just say also they get the points that there wasn't anything wrong with the cinematography. So definitely they were starting at least average or above. And I liked the color in the shots. I thought it was pretty good.
Oh, all right. So the cinematography, I think that it is, it's not bad, right? And they conveyed everything they needed to convey. I didn't look at it as if the shots were great. I didn't say, whoa, look at how they did that, right? And of course, a lot of times they spend a lot on those opening scenes, right?
Yeah.
Where it just pulls you in and you're like, oh, this is going to be good, and they got you hooked, right? But I think it was like standard TV movie sort of a look. And yeah, but you know, everything now you can get real vivid and colorful shots, and I think that's what they tried to give us, but I don't think it was as colorful as the 80s were.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. But it did feel very 80s. I would say it kind of made me feel like, all right, this is pretty 80s. The wigs, the costumes,
I think we have to put it in that because
we don't have another place for it. But I thought that the costume was pretty good when she comes out in that pink outfit. You know, I mean, like
they probably spent all the time on that. It's like, let's make sure we get this one with the almost Madonna dance.
Yeah, and when I tell you, baby, that haircut was everything at the time with the headband on. Look, listen, if you were not there to enjoy it, like, and you brought up Madonna. Back then, it didn't even matter. Like, folks were gonna wear the big Madonna bow. Y'all don't even know. The ones who were there, y'all know. Like, young girl. I was a young girl at the time, and you were like, yeah, let me get a big floppy bow for my hair. Let me do that.
Yeah, but so like Paul Anthony, his hair, we'll get to it. But every black guy, I was like, that's Paul Anthony. That's Paul Anthony. That's Paul Anthony. They
had a bad wig.
They all had the same wig and stuff. So it's just like, okay, that's Paul Anthony.
Kind of Jerry Curlish, but not
Full Force,
exactly
right?
Jerry Curlish, yeah.
And so I just say I have to give them I give them a 7 because, meet standards.
All right.
Yeah.
So, but the cinematography definitely was not bad.
And the editing, I think that they really pushed the story forward with that. And it, because I kind of include the sound and stuff, it wasn't anything that really stood out as bad in it was cut in the story. I seemed to be able to keep up with it, even though, things were way out. Maybe they don't get
as high of a score on editing.
Because it's just maybe the plot and narrative, but I put that in editing because the order in which you tell the story through the editing, it's just like, I don't know where we are in time. Because maybe I knew a little about the story, where it's like, this not adding up, these ages aren't adding up, and these events don't seem, but I could be wrong.
Yeah, because you're like, wait a minute, I thought this song came when this thing happened. Well, she's singing this song now. She's been
singing the same song for 7 years. Yeah, and then you just finished making it, and you already,
and like, oh, we had a big jump in time. What's going on? That kind of thing.
They get like a 6 for that.
Yeah, I would say my editing score would be, I'm going to give it a 7, actually.
Okay.
I again, nothing outstandingly wrong with the editing, but the jumping around in time and what I feel like wasn't songs adding up with where we were in the timeline, but.
That's this new thing they're doing, and I don't like it. I want things in the order that they happened. But in every biopic now, they're doing that to try to make a narrative around the songs being made. And that's just basically making falsehoods.
Well, and so I think there's a way you could do it, but for whatever reason, they never choose to just let it be at the point in the movie where it happened. For whatever reason, they reorganize it, maybe because they're like, oh, this has to take place in Act 2. And you know what I mean?
Yeah.
For whatever reason. Or maybe they're like, oh, too much would be in Act 1.
But you can just tell the actual story of their life because life progresses, and we know. Like, in the end, you're still going to go forward in time and get to whatever conclusion you think it is, whether they got success, they overcame whatever, or you know what I'm saying? So, yeah, they got there in real life. So that story is already laid out somewhat.
Yes. Entertainment value. I was excited. I don't know how to rate this now because I feel like I was really excited and I want it to be a 10.
Okay.
But if I'm honest, it probably would be maybe a 7.
Oh, a 7.
I'd give it a 7, and a 7 is generous.
Okay, it is, because I will give it, for entertainment, a 5, because it's, okay, y'all, this movie is not a happy movie at all. It's just negativity. No, not negativity. It's just negative thing after negative thing. It just piles on and piles on and piles on. And then in the end, it's just like, she's on stage, and that's it.
Yeah.
It just, yeah.
And
making the songs wasn't fun. Performing wasn't fun. It wasn't happy. Like, the only fun probably was that opening scene you talked about, and then you were crushed really fast.
And I think another thing that we should point out is that inevitably people are going to compare this to like Selena, right? Another life story.
Oh,
and I think that no matter what,
you can.
It's just not going to be as dramatic. Number one, Selena was a movie made for theaters and to make money in the theaters.
And big money back
then.
90s, yeah.
You know, that's number one. And number two, the character arc, right, of that is just, you know, Lisa is still alive and she's still performing and stuff. And so no matter what, you're not going to get the dramatic ending that you got with Selena, because, you know, Selena died in her prime.
Yeah.
So that's another thing to point out here. And you know, I just happened to see, and I didn't mention it, but Angie Martinez shows up in here as the nurse.
Yeah, Angie Martinez.
Yeah. So I guess next, what should we do next? Plot or acting?
Let's do the acting.
All right. So acting, my rating for the acting would be I'm actually going to give acting a 9.
Oh,
I'm going to give acting a 9. And let me just start with this. I was very impressed, number one, with Lisa, who's playing her mother in this movie. Because I said, look at Lisa doing some acting. And this is before I knew and understood, and this should have been really discussed in here, is that she had an entire career as an actress. You know, she went on after, she broke up with Cult Jam. She went on to be off Broadway acting in stage performances and musicals and stuff like that. See, I didn't know that. So like, it's not like, because I was like, okay, she's going to play her mother. And I'm thinking it's going to be like a small part where you come in and, she speaks like her mother spoke and then she leaves, right? But she had, what I think is a pretty substantial part. And she did really well, especially with like the dramatic scenes. So I like that. And then if you take the main character, I did Eunice Corchado. She felt very Lisa. How do you think she looked? Do you think she looked like Lisa?
No, I don't think so.
Yeah, it's weird because I think in a way, like, I think she looked more like other people who were famous than
I just kept seeing somebody else. I was like, who is this? She reminds me of some people or somebody, and I just couldn't figure out who it was.
Yeah. So, but what Tony said in one of the interviews I watched, she was like, the actress would have to look like Lisa. So they felt that the actress looked like a young Lisa. Now, what I would say is when she's dressed up like her, like, I see it, but I don't know. She just didn't look like her to me.
Yeah.
She just did not look like her. She looked like she was dressed up as Lisa.
Yeah.
And when you see them next to each other, like, maybe, like in the scenes where she's wearing the pink outfit, like, who she's supposed to be. But I don't know. Didn't exactly look like her to me. But y'all go to the comments if you guys saw it. Do you think she looks like her? I mean, I think it's definitely a close enough match. But I also would say that it doesn't have to be an exact match. I mean, you think about great biopics and films about people like Denzel Washington looked like nothing like Malcolm X, but he was still amazing and believable. But, again, that was a
Tina
film
Turner,
and Tina Turner, same thing,
right.
But then those were movies that were with super top tier actors that were meant for the theater. And this is, a little something different, but I think it is kind of like the best that we could hope for. So so that's my score, for
okay, acting. So I will give it about an 8. I think that the actors were good, right? So all of them, Breezy, she was good as Tony Minaj.
Oh yeah, I meant to mention that. Yeah, she was good.
I wasn't like, it wasn't cringe, right? I wasn't like, ooh. I wasn't feeling like that during any of it, right? So, yeah. They
Breezy
put together a good enough
so familiar to me, and I think she did a really good job.
What do you mean familiar? Because you've seen her in different stuff.
Yeah, but like, she just, I don't know. She just felt very familiar, but yet also I believed her in this character. I thought she did a really good job. And then when I see
what do you think of, compare
the match between her and Tony, they don't exactly look alike, but that doesn't matter.
Yeah.
I thought it was good. A good.
So Tony
feel.
is Puerto Rican though, right?
I think so. I think she is.
Yeah, but I don't know if Breezy is Puerto Rican. But it doesn't matter, right? In the story.
The other part is too that both of them present. All right, so Tony is lesbian. She's a lesbian, and so I felt like it was very important to match how she presents. So when I looked at her in the interview, I think that came off very well, and I think that the way she presented, with the image, with how she spoke, with her tone of voice, I can't say her mannerisms because I haven't studied her that much, but close enough that I feel like this is the person. I recognize this person, and so I think that was good.
So I think that's good, and she's an actress, right? So she's pulling it off too. And but so they do, both Lisa and Tony, they claim that they're black, right? So there's that too. So that's why if, you see the movie and you're like, hey, it's just this black woman, then because they are black.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, and to be clear, the reason that should be pointed out is because, obviously, not every person who is Latino says that they're Black,
Right.
right? So just to be clear. And the last thing that I guess we should talk about is the plot. My rating for the plot, unfortunately, is going to be a 5.
Dang, okay.
And for a couple of reasons. One, I think that you can't help whatever your life story is. But the way it was put together, it didn't focus exactly on what I wanted. And to be honest with you, it's a wonderful story. No offense to Toni, but I didn't even know she existed before I saw this. And therefore, my care for wanting to see her, any part of her story, was like way less than the reason I showed up, which is for Lisa.
But what about the fact that you watch stories about people you don't know all the time?
So this is about what I was expecting, right? It's unmet expectations that make the story of the plot an issue.
Okay.
Now, if you called the movie Lisa and Toni story, then I'd probably be like, well, who is Toni?
Yeah.
Okay, it is Lisa and Toni, because it really is Lisa and Toni's story. And even when you, we read what Lifetime said and how they build this film, the whole second half, they're like, talking about, the story is about their unwavering friendship in the face of these two women trying to make it in the music industry.
Oh.
That is what they said. Like what we read earlier was directly from Lifetime's website on how they described the film.
Yeah.
But I didn't get that.
They should have led with the second part, that basically this movie is about their friendship, right?
Yeah.
So, but to me, that the story goes absolutely nowhere. So you get a 4. Right? But I kind of got what happened in Lisa's journey, right?
Yeah.
Only basically in the 80s though, right? So the story goes nowhere. I guess, you do have their friendship and it's more about that, right? But if you're going to name it, Can You Feel the Beat? Then I'm talking about music and stuff.
Yeah.
Unless it's just the Lisa story and,
So maybe some branding issues. And I'm not trying to beat it up or anything like that because, right? I recognize, but yeah.
Yeah. So the point is that you may feel like when you're watching it, right, the way it is that it's about somebody's journey in the music business. But then after it's over, you're like, wait, you got to go back and think about. So it's just that they went through these certain things because they never really overcame the things that they went through either. Right? Except maybe they got to a point where they are closer to each other, which isn't that compelling of a story because people get closer to each other just by sitting next to each other for a week. You know what I'm saying? At work. So,
I mean, and there were compelling things that happened, which I would say. So the thing is, you have to figure out what the story is. Everybody could have a biopic. But the thing is, you got to figure out what in your story is worth the concentrating on in the hour and a half that you have.
And how it is, how this challenge is met and conquered. Right?
I mean, and I guess the fact that these two women were still standing is a triumph, right?
Yeah.
Because we transitioned from seeing them in the film to they're still on stage many, many decades later. And that is a triumph. And I'm not undercutting that. And I'm not saying, so to be clear, like I love
it could be a triumph and all of that, but it's the way that this story is told and how it's put together, right? If you telling this whole story and all this stuff is happening, and then in the last 5 minutes, you're like, all right, and here's your conclusion, then that's just how it is, right?
So what did we wind up with for our scores?
So I ended up with a 5.9. Not even a 6.
Out of 10.
Out of 10.
And
Cheri,
I ended with a 7.1
that's
out
pretty
of 10.
good.
So I would say
is a 7 good? I think a 7 is considered good.
I think a 7 is considered good, or at the low end of good.
We're gonna have to go back and do our.
We need to do a range to something to define what these numbers mean.
Yeah, and then come out with an average so we can know what is considered average for us.
For us, yes. So, so to come out with a 7, I don't think is bad. The big question, is it worth the watch?
Yeah, it's worth the watch.
Mm-hmm. I agree. It's definitely worth the watch. I think you should.
It's the story of Lisa. Come on now.
You're gonna learn things that you didn't know. Like I didn't know about, nobody probably knew about the cancer, right?
Bruh.
Because it wasn't something that she talked about. She did keep it a secret, and we'll get more into that in the spoiler part of the review.
Yeah.
But yeah, I definitely think it's worth the watch if you have an opportunity to see it. Once I don't know if they're gonna open it up or if it might be on Amazon at some point, or
probably never.
If you get the chance to watch it, then
it's Lifetime. It's just, bro.
I think it's worth the watch.
But I think some of that stuff went to Tubi, maybe. I don't know, but it's just so sad that we got things that be on like Peacock and what's the other one, Paramount and all this,
that you just,
and Apple
and ain't nobody
TV
about to have no $300.
Yeah, you crazy?
Entertainment bill, fooling around. Because I remember back in the day, I was paying like a couple $100 for, all the fat package.
But that's how they get the money, right? So they put out something that you want to watch, like the story of Lisa, and then you go and you pay for a month, and then you didn't turn it off, so then you pay for the second month and then the third month, and you haven't been watching these.
They get a few months
services.
out of you.
Yeah, because you wanted to watch one thing.
Yeah, but here's what I will say though, and you and I had this conversation, and I feel like I think her story definitely needed to be told. I was very interested in it. I wish it could have had all of the music so we could have heard it all. Original music. I don't want to hear it resung and all of that. But you know what? If you just actually are honest with yourself about it, at the end of the day, a Lifetime movie was probably the best that was going to happen.
Yeah.
And this might just be the best effort. And I have to manage my expectations on that basis.
As a musician, I want something different from biopics about musicians and people in the music business too. So,
which is not something that Lisa or Tony could control, right? Because they didn't control who wrote those songs back in the day that now they may not be able to play during their film.
But I think they had a part in the movie where it can be about making music and stuff, right? So everybody, who goes through things and maybe have successes and stuff, they want to tell you about how they did it and how they got over and all this other stuff, right? And that's not why I'm a fan, right? No disrespect, but I don't care about your life in that same way because I don't even know you. Right? What I know about you and why I followed you is because I was singing and not dancing, but some people were dancing, right?
Yeah.
Singing and dancing to your stuff. So when I get the movie and it's not there as much, then it's like, oh, okay. Then there's some disappointment, even though it could possibly be a good movie, right? And a good story. I still leave with a spot missing in my heart.
Yeah.
In my heart. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. That's how I felt about it. But I mean, again, I'm just trying to manage my expectations. I mean, it's better than not having a movie, right? It wasn't a disaster where you're like, look, you should have just not even let them make this movie, but I think if this was your only chance to have a film and tell the story you wanted to tell, okay. And she says she has an autobiography coming out soon.
And we may have,
well, maybe not soon,
a memoir, maybe. I think
memoir.
But we may have gotten to a point where there are people who don't know who Lisa is too. So that's good. But part of it is, and I get there's these freestyle purists who's like, she's not a freestyle artist, right? They didn't go into all of that. They didn't go into freestyle music and that sort of a thing, because this was at a time where a genre was being created too that was really big, and especially with a specific community. So, they didn't lean into that, and we got what we got.
Yes. All right. Well, for those of you who are only here for the non-spoiler portion of our review, go ahead and hop off the call now. But if you want to stick around for the in-depth conversation about exactly what happened in this movie and the questions that we have that are a lot deeper, go ahead and stay for this part of the review.
Yeah.
All
so,
right. So we should probably just run down like kind of what actually does happen in the movie.
Okay.
All right. So in the beginning, we see Lisa. She's 15, and the first scene, she comes in from after she's been dancing on the street with her Walkman, comes in, bam, and it opens with her getting knocked, basically hit and whatever in the house. And she said this is how she met her father, and he's basically gives her the beat down and
her mother
yeah, and she when she's 15 or whatever, so it just like opens
it's just
with
like
DV.
that, and then that's when you be like, oh man, Lisa is her own mama.
Yeah,
which is very meta because I see scenes where it's like the young Lisa is taller than the actual Lisa when was your mother actually shorter than you, but then you would be shorter than taller than where your mother was. It's very strange when you're playing your parent like this.
So and then we also find out
go ahead. Yeah, so she get this all going on, and then she basically just leaves out of there and puts her headphones back on. Right, so it's trying to make this attachment to, okay, she's really into music, right? And maybe there's some comfort there in music.
Yes, and that her home life is like not comfortable, and so in real life, she's the youngest of 10 children. Man. But in this movie, it felt like it was just 3 or 4 of them. I don't know.
They have to do that in movies. They always do this.
But she has one main brother that kind of stands out. And I guess he's the oldest brother. He's working to support the family. And she also works too. And, at like a boutique or something in the back. With the clothes and whatnot and the mannequins. Yeah. And so, but the brother is like, look, your head is in the clouds. You need to figure out how to make some money and stuff. And so we see up front, people are not believing in her dreams of music.
But if you're the youngest and you're 15, so there's how many are still in the house really? Or how many are maybe kids too? It's kind of weird.
So, so then, we see that, and then, she wants to follow her dream. So she
got Madonna all over her wall and stuff. And
so she winds up auditioning for Jelly Bean. And I took a note and I said the lip sync was horrible during the audition.
So I do have a video on my music channel about Madonna's ex, right? Jelly Bean Benitez. And basically, he started this label about for Latinas, and what was that song we was listening to the other? Oh man! So it's this one big group, this R&B group who we were listening to, this Latino group. Well, he signed them, and it's basically a label that's basically all about Latinos, right? And then eventually he signed like deals with Fat Joe and Pun, and Fat Joe, got sued by Pun's estate, and then comes out and talk about how this was basically Jelly Bean who was ripping both of them off and stuff. Yeah. So that's the Jelly Bean who was, Madonna's boyfriend at the time, which was basically Lisa's in. But I don't think they really got into her real love for Madonna, if it was even a thing. But I just assume everybody at that age
loved Madonna. They did. Like Madonna was everything.
And especially if you're seeking out Jelly Bean, who DJ'd at the big clubs in New York, that would be a reason, because you probably a Madonna fan too.
So Toni Minaj, we are introduced to her also. And so she is a singer, but, she's being told like, you don't have the look because of how she dresses, which is, not obviously not over the top sexy and not what would be characterized as feminine. Right. And so Lisa eventually goes in, auditions for Jelly Bean, winds up hooking up with Cult Jam. And then they at the beginning of their audition is not good, because they're then auditioning for who we guess is Full Force at this point.
Yeah, but
and the audition isn't going well, right? They're singing some song and it's just, and then they get a second chance. He's like, well, sing a song that you actually know. And then when she does that, then they're like, okay, we like you, So here she is with the 2 guys, and, now they've hooked up with, again, who we think is Full Force.
So I think what happened was when they were at the club, and then Jelly Bean tells Toni that record execs don't want nobody to look like her, that this part was Mike Hughes of Cult Jam, who stopped Lisa outside, right? And was like, come on over to audition. So, but the producers we know were full force.
Mm-hmm. You know, so this is how. So once she hooks up with Full Force, this is how we wind up with Lisa and Cult Jam, and then they go into the name because I didn't know anything about how they got the name. So you know, they were like, oh, her name is Lisa, but they're like, oh, Lisa, say it twice, you know, Lisa, and Cult Jam. You know, they're thinking culture, hip hop, and music is what they embody, and so that's how they got Lisa and Cult Jam.
Right, but when there's this character who doesn't exist, Rocco, who's representing one portion of the music industry, but he really looks like Michael Anthony from Full Force.
The hair,
so I was
especially.
like, man, that's him, but you know, we can't say it's him. Maybe I don't know. But when he said Lisa, he was pointing at her breast, right? And then that's this introduction of, oh man, here we go.
Yeah.
But then it make me start side eyeing your boy from Full Force.
Right.
Because he had the curl, black guy, and all of that, right?
So here, I got to know, why was Full Force not in here? Why did this really have nothing to do with Full Force? And, you know, is it because Full Force, like, are they some of the ones? Because, you know, as we get into the film, we'll talk more, but you know, so she basically gets sexually harassed everywhere she turns. Like, that's really what this whole movie is about, is men basically harassing her and possibly even doing more. But when I watched the interview, the film didn't really say, it certainly didn't name names, and it didn't explain the extent to which to which this happened, right? Did it just stop at kind of the cat calls and, you know, inappropriate touching or whatever, or was it more?
Right.
And so we really don't know.
This was, you know, when all of this was taking place, she was around 15.
Yes. And, you know, so here she is, a young girl who is with these adult men who are in the music industry and stuff. So and of course you can only imagine how these things went. But then we get to the point where she's recording, I Wonder If I'd Take You Home. And, you know, one of the guys is like, the guys are going to love you. And, you know, and then I'm like, man, the song she was singing, even, I Wonder If I Take You Home, and you like 15 years old. And, but Radio UK gives her some play. Rocco is creepy though, right? Because he in this film is the one, like you mentioned, that is giving off vibes of,
right.
Everybody's giving the vibes of harassment.
And then you have the record exec who is Barry Connor, who is a fictional character, right? So he's pushing the record, signing the contract, and all that stuff.
And
right?
her mother has to sign.
Right, and this is an older white guy.
Yes.
Who is representing the record business side of things, and this fictional character Rocco is representing the
producer,
the actors of music, right? The creator side.
So she is so young that you know, her mother has to sign for her, but she's like, oh, you know, do we need a lawyer for? They're like, of course you don't need a lawyer. This is just standard contract. So go ahead and sign. But the mother doesn't want to sign, and the mom is like, look, I know what these men want, and it's not your voice. I see how they look at you. And so I'm like, man, you know, and Lisa talks about how interesting it is to see herself through her mother's eyes now, you know, looking back at maybe how she just would have felt at that age, you know, looking at her younger self now, knowing what she knows today. And, but, you know, she says also that she wanted to take care of her mother and let them move to a better neighborhood and give a better life. And so the mother does go ahead and sign the paperwork. And, then the label guy starts touching her and being creepy too. Oh, Lisa, you know, just being, So like you said, this was not a happy movie. It's like, this is the vibe throughout. Anytime
she's in the studio, right? We have all that. And then we have, when she's in Lisa and Cult Jam, right? They like, okay, getting some buzz, going on a talk show, and then it's not good because it's like, the label's like, okay, they only want to talk to Lisa, the pre-interview before we go on, right? So it's like there was and this probably how she felt when all of this was happening too, right? So I can't just be selfish and be like, it should have been happy for me if at every turn it was just some negativity or toxicity.
And I think that's really probably what she did experience. And you look at her in the interviews, the actual Lisa, and at the beginning of every interview, I watched about 5 of them with her talking about this movie. At the beginning of each one, she starts tearing up before they could even talk. She's just they're all like, oh, like she's very emotional at the beginning of everyone. And I think that there is so much more she hasn't told. She even kind of teased it with her memoir that she's going to put out, and she says she's going to name names. So we'll see.
Yeah.
What turns out with that.
That's what's going on. So all these men are doing all these things to her, but then you have Jelly Bean. So he runs into Tony Minaj, and he try to get her off the street, because she's slanging and stuff. That's how basically. Lisa met her, right?
Yeah.
She was in the club slanging.
The auditions for yeah.
So Jelly Bean is like, yo, there's this audition, you go ahead and go and audition. So Tony go and she auditioned for Lisa and Cult Jam as a backup singer, right? And then you have Tony and Lisa, they make their connection, right? Because we had all this stuff with the man and here comes another woman.
Right. So now we get to see 2 important players in Lisa's life. Now we see Tony, right? And then we also see that some guy off the street she's passing by, and then he's interested in her and whatever. And then this turns out to actually be her, eventually be her boyfriend / husband, and boyfriend then husband. And so she hasn't seen her family in a year. After they picked up Tony. Now Tony's in the backup singer and everything. And, it's been concert after concert. And so she supposedly has this commercial she's going to be doing. And the label is tripping. And, Tony interjects that Lisa should have creative control. And so then Lisa argues for that. So, that started getting Tony on the label and other people's bad side. Because everybody wanted to be in Lisa's ear. And they didn't want anybody influencing Lisa really for what was best for her. They wanted to be able to exploit her talents, right? And get her to do what they wanted her to do.
Without any pushback or anything, right?
And Tony was over there like, oh, you should be asking for this. You should be,
So even they had a photo shoot, right? And then Tony was trying to advocate for her, right? And help her out and do things. And then there is conflict between the group Cult Jam and with the label, right? And
then
Tony.
You got Rocco, who is instigating, talking to the Cult Jam dudes, telling them, you got 2 little girls telling you what to do, and one of them is a backup singer,
Yeah.
So the label then also continues to try to block out Cult Jam. So see, everybody is trying to make their moves, right, to be in the best position to get the biggest piece of the pie. Cult Jam is like, look, we are musicians. We are part of this group. And it's not just about Lisa. They're trying to get their piece. Then you got Rocco and them over there. And then you also have the label who is going to demand their pound of flesh, right?
Yeah.
So they do complain to the label, though, about Tony. And so Rocco then decides that he's going to start feeling on her after her husband, leaves the room.
The studio.
Yeah. And she tells him to stop, and he's trying to start kissing her and stuff. And so she gets away barely. And so, again, I start to question how true this is. Did you actually get away? I believe that it happened, no doubt. I'm not saying that this didn't happen. What I'm saying is, did you really get away? Or did something more happen? Because in the film, we see that she barely gets away. She's just like, okay. And then she's able to run, get out of the room with him. And then we see Lisa, though, a momentary happy point. She gets a check for $10,000. And so she goes and she buys a car for her mother.
She was buying all this stuff. She went to shopping because Tony was like, let's go shopping, right? So they go shopping, but why is her husband in the background mad?
And carrying
right?
the
So
bag.
that's what I'm saying. It was a little happy, but her boyfriend, he in the background mugging and
Yes.
stuff. And then she bought a car for her mama, and
her brother is mad.
Bruh, come on.
And he's all like, we're all supposed to be in this to pitch in together and get her a car. And so it's all for him at this point, the way it's depicted in the film. It's like, it's about them, who gets credit for doing it, right? And she's like to her brother, can't you just be proud? Can't you just be proud of me? Dang. And so then we see the real Lisa as her mother just acting her behind off, and whatnot. And so telling her, about, just everything, like what's going on in her life and stuff. And so, but Lisa is famous, and her man, like you said, is in the background carrying her bags, and he's mad, and he like, I'm not gonna follow you around like this, like I'm your pet. And then he's like, look, marry me or I'll leave. She is 20 years old.
The way it looked in the movie though was that she was already popular and stuff, and they were already up. But when they met, right? So that too adds a layer to how trash the boyfriend was.
Yes. And so her mother and her brother don't want her getting married so young, but she gets married anyway. And the
brother don't go to the wedding.
And then and Tony goes to the wedding in a tuxedo. But it reminds me still of like the movie Selena, right? How, Selena's she used to have the little secret affair with the with the guy from her group and stuff, and how they eloped and went off and got married, and she was young too. But anyway, so Lisa, they have their Spanish Fly tour. And again, I put in my notes, like, they didn't even mention All Cried Out. And so then you see Lisa and Tony bonding. Lisa's showing her how to shave her legs and everything like that, because, Tony has to present a certain image when on stage with Lisa, right? So she's got to now shave her legs and do whatever to be this backup singer. And in the meantime, Lisa's husband now, because she done married this man, has, he's always calling to check on her, where she is and whatever. And so she comes home. I'm assuming his name is Javier, but they call him Javi or whatever. And so she comes home, and you were like, oh, he gonna be in there with another woman. And I thought that too. And then she come home, the closet is empty.
Yeah, because while you're watching this movie, you're just like, all right, what else is gonna go wrong?
Mm-hmm. So you're watching this, and the closet is empty and whatever, and Javi done moved out. And so then shortly after, we find out Lisa's also pregnant, and right after he done moved out. And then Lisa tells Tony that her mother said not to have his baby because he reminds her of the father, and the father was very abusive. So then Lisa mentions her own daddy issues, and maybe that's why she wanted a man to love her so bad or whatever. But Tony also shares that she doesn't really have any family support, and the two of them continue to bond over this, being best friends.
Did she not have the kid?
I don't know.
Because I didn't even think about it.
She has children.
But she was in the film. It was like, hey, she's pregnant, right?
Uh-huh.
And then the mother was like, don't have the child.
And then we don't see.
Then we don't see the child, but they don't.
So and I don't know, and I'm not trying to be messy, but it got put out there,
right?
And
but the cancer diagnosis was close to that, too.
Yeah, or maybe it wasn't, but in the movie it was.
Yeah,
boom, the next thing that happens, exactly.
But I think she said at the age of 20, right? She did, and she wasn't married till she was 20.
Yeah, so maybe this really all was at the same time.
Yeah.
So,
yeah, but. They're going back and forth, and Tony is basically talking about how she don't have happy memories of being a kid at all. And then so she starts talking about her emotions, and she just bump a line or whatever it's called.
Man, and it's just like when she pulled out that, and I was like, dang, Tony. But then we also see when she goes downstairs with the Coat Jam dudes, like she's pulling chicks better than them.
Yeah, she started raising somebody up, but then they start looking, right? Oh, we have this lesbian over here.
So then the next thing, Lisa gets her breast cancer diagnosis. And when the doctor's telling her this, she's like, I can't stop touring. And so then the nurse that is played by Angie Martinez, suggests like maybe she could get treatment while on tour, and, basically mobile treatment, if you will. And so.
And it's like, okay, that's a little light right there, right?
Yeah.
But then the doctor is all mad that the nurse suggested
he was like,
it.
I'm the one who gets to say how the treatments go, whatever.
Yeah, so then they have a little heart-to-heart, the nurse and Lisa.
And we also find out at this moment, Lisa is saying like she took advances from the record label and that she can't stop touring. She needs the money or whatever. And so anyway, Lisa's getting her treatments or whatever. And then they're still on their tour, but something is off with their contract. Lisa is, sick on the road and whatever. The label dude done confronted Tony over lesbian rumors between her and Lisa. And, and then Lisa gets a check that's only $3,000.
Yeah, but this was after Mike, he's trying to talk to them, want to talk about money, right? And then Lisa blew him off.
Because she was sick, right? She was just like, I don't know, I don't really be looking like, and because she hid that she was sick because she didn't want them to know, because if they knew that she was sick, then she was concerned that, because they were always
they're basically getting off tour, and then he's like, man, something ain't right with the money. You know what I'm saying? We need to go ahead and take a look at this. And she's like, no. And then she pops up with a $3,000 check.
Yeah, and then that's when it's like, okay, now you got to care.
Yeah, when she wasn't as big, it was $10,000. Now all of a sudden, all this going on is $3,000.
So she goes into the office to talk about it and everything, and then
well, she lost the commercial too.
Yeah,
she's like, all right, it's $3,000, but what about this commercial?
And then the first line she's told is that the client had pulled out the commercial deal. Come to find out, it's the label is turning down deals for them, which I don't, how true any of that is, but the receptionist is the one who said, well, the client pulled out of the deal, and something about they didn't like the direction. And then it became evident that the label didn't like the direction, and they were like, no, we're just not going to do this. Right. And so
and
Lisa
then Barry
was mad.
is just really like, you belong to us. That's what he said.
There's plenty of girls in line to take your place. So shut up. And then so it's just really kind of like highlighting the sexism in the industry. And the Cult Jam guys, they don't want to use Toni anymore because they all want to separate her from Toni. The label, the Cult Jam guys do too.
Because Lisa is like, hey, let's just have Toni take a look. Right? And then, and Mike is just like, well, she's just a background singer, right? Yeah. Even though you're just a band member too, right? Oh, she's just a background singer. She don't know nothing about this.
So even while Lisa is giving like autographs and stuff like that, there's tension now between Lisa and Toni because, they're starting to fight because, Toni still continues to try to give her advice, and Lisa's got all this pressure. Plus she's sick and been keeping the secret of the cancer.
And she's doing chemo and all this all the while.
Well, and I'm like, how does she keep the cancer a secret with all the appointments while you're on a tour bus? Like, I don't understand how you're able to do that. But somehow she did. But anyway, so then there's this big turning point where there's this fight in the limo. She's in the limo with Toni. The Cult Jam guys get in the limo and they're heading off to someplace. And everybody's mad. And the Cult Jam guys, start talking and fighting with Toni because they didn't want her in there. And they're like, this group is us, not her. Why is she here and whatever? So they have a fight in this limo, like a physical fight. And, the contract is bad too, So Toni is then fired and they bring in this new chick, and Lisa comes in and Lisa doesn't even know.
This after Toni told him, hey, I've been warning y'all, right? I've been trying to tell y'all all of this stuff. And then, she just got fired and she's in the projects.
Yeah. And so then Lisa goes snap on Barry, and, then he's like, you're from the ghetto and you never graduated high school. Wait, what?
You cannot make it in this business without someone like me.
It was just very like, did he really say that?
I'm pretty sure they say things like, it's probably
weird.
Not word for word, but I'm sure it was similar things.
Oh my gosh.
That were said like that.
And so then when she finds out that Toni has been fired, she goes on to look for Toni. And
she finds Jelly Bean, and I'm like, how long Jelly Bean was over there? He was still DJing over there?
So when she found him, and he's like, she's over at the project, whatever. And then he's like, well, wait, but project is no place for a girl after sunset. Bruh, I don't know. This line was not supposed to be funny.
Don't girls live there, bro?
Yes, this was not supposed to be funny. So come to find out, which was actually referenced in the limo fight, right? Where one of the guys from Cult Jam is like, to Toni says, oh, I heard your father was, basically running you, having you out there. But it seemed oddly placed, and I didn't exactly understand what it meant. Well, then when we see her in the projects and she's, drugged out or whatever, and her father is the basically the pimping her, if you will, and she's doing tricks for that
daddy.
And so Lisa comes to save her, and Tony is all, passed out and whatever. And then next thing you know, Tony wakes up in the hospital, and Lisa confesses to Tony that she has cancer, and they bond some more. And she says she didn't tell her because she was scared to lose everything. And so then Tony's talking about how she had sold the drugs and stuff for her father because she wanted him to love her.
Yeah.
And then they vow that they're not going to keep any more secrets. And Tony tells Lisa to go tell her mother, because Lisa ain't even told her mother that she got this cancer. And then
she go tell her mother, and then they're at Radio City Music Hall as a good ending.
Yes. And she had always dreamed of playing there, and her mother and her brother have seats in the front row.
Yeah.
And they come there, and Tony is back working with them, and Lisa and her brother make up, and the brother says that he
wanted to be the one to take care of I want to be the one to take care of my little sister.
So you didn't have it as rough as I did and stuff. And
then they played an auto-tune version of Can You Feel the Beat?
And he says he's proud of her, which, looping back to where she said, can you just say you're proud of me? So this is how it ends, and this is the end. And then they, kind of give you show you the real Lisa and Tony, and, that
give
was
you a update of text on the screen.
Yeah, all the songs she had, and she was the first Latina artist to cross over to R&B and pop charts, and Tony became her manager and stuff, and they still together today as best friends.
Yeah,
and everything. And so to get into some of the conversation about about their relationship, because they were accused of being lovers. And they both say no, that they weren't, and it never crossed their mind that wasn't it, and all of that. So, I mean, who knows? And if they are, that's their business. But their dynamic is very interesting when you watch their interviews together.
Yeah.
Lisa is very meek. And people describe her as the sweetest person. Oh my God, she's so sweet. She's so nice.
They just say that about people who don't talk much, right? If you're just kind of quiet or shy, you're like, oh, that's so sweet. And because the more you talk, the more conflicts you have with people.
And it feels like Tony is in charge.
Yeah, it was her idea to get the movie done, right? So Twinkle, I believe, I don't know who Twinkle is, but the person who put the movie together, the director maybe, the producer or whatever, right, was in Lisa's inbox, in her DMs, and for months or years, right? Always coming back. Let's do a movie. And somehow Tony got into the DMs and responded, basically, and that's basically how we get the movie.
Yeah. And, so just to kind of loop back, do you think that this was like all true, or was it some spin to make it more dramatic? Was it worse than it was depicted?
You had two characters who didn't exist to represent ideas, right? So, yeah.
Yeah, and I don't want to accuse anybody, but here's the thing, right? All right. When you have things that are bad that happen to you, and we all know that Full Force was involved with you, and like, if they didn't do anything to you, then this makes them kind of look guilty of something. If they didn't, and now if they did do something, then they're getting the rightful shade, and they should get more, because you should just go on ahead and say what went down. But if
they didn't, you have to say they didn't do anything.
And I feel like that. Yeah.
In the interview, she said, "Oh, everything's cool with them and all." So I don't know. But when you got that guy and they're in the studio with a producer, and then that's just who I think it is, because what also happened is, so first you signed a production deal, right? And then that's basically what wraps you in for life, right? That's what we see Megan Thee Stallion going through basically too, right? So you got all that, and then they basically start trading your contract with these other things. So then you get signed to a label, and then they sign for distribution and all that sort of thing. But those original people would be like the Full Forces of the world, or whatever group was there at that point when you first went to make those first tracks.
Then I was also thinking about like the scope of the film, right? So it stops at the point where, because we really don't. Okay, so it tells us at the end that she's been cancer free for the last 20 plus years. And, we see that they're still touring today. I'm like, maybe the movie should have been fast forward on the early stuff since we needed to skip over that. Maybe you could have shown me some more about her on Broadway or off Broadway. And
basically, like, all of we know about her in the music business or in her life and her career was negative from in the movie, right? And then, you know, they show her in front of Radio City Music Hall in the beginning of the film, and then way at the end she's performing there, but they didn't make it seem like that was a goal. They talked about creative control. They could have got to a point where she was able to have creative control, or, you know, one of those major milestones
with Cold Jam, because she was talking about that in one of the interviews, where she just decided that, you know, it was time, she wanted to go out on her own, so she separated from them or whatever, and that it was cool with them, but, you know, she did go on and separate from them. And I'm like, well, dang, you know, this could have been part of the story, because this is still, like, you could have put the lens on any part of the story, and it still was going to include Toni, because she was there the whole time anyway. You know,
especially if it's like these friends and Toni is advocating for her, and we get to a point where it's realized, right? Where it's, okay, you done got away from all this, and now we have control over our own destinies, you know, but it just ended prematurely.
Yeah. So, I mean, but that was your hour and a half or whatever it was, you know, so you got the time. It's just what we spent the time doing. And I don't know. But I still think, like we said in the non-spoiler review, it's worth the watch and everything if you get the chance to see it. But I, you know, being honest, I was a little bit disappointed, but I applaud the effort. I'm glad somebody wanted to tell the story and that she agreed for it to be told. And at least we know she agreed to this, because, you know, so many biopics we see are not, the person is not involved, and, you know, we really don't know what's true. At least we know that this is what she wanted to be out
there. Yeah.
You know,
and now it just makes me like, hey, all right, I want to see some more from that era.
You said it's Debbie Deb.
Yep, where's the Debbie Deb biopic?
Yeah, and maybe just even more about like freestyle music and, you know, kind of getting into that, even though I know they say she wasn't freestyle.
Bro, so it was something going on. So I watched one of the interview with Sway, and then one of them was asking a question. They was like, oh, she's on tour with Stevie B, right? And then she just started laughing. And I'm like, wait, what?
Why was she laughing?
She was like, ha! I don't know, because he got mentioned. And I'm like, dang, what's going on over there? So that'd be like the sort of things that, hey,
the little behind the scenes, something is going on.
Yeah, but, you know, a lot of them, like I was saying, they really do have a problem with Lisa. Of course, sometimes it's jealousy because you were so big.
Yeah. And crossover.
Yeah. And you get all the shine. When people think of freestyle, they think of Lisa. Right? That's one of the first names that's going to come up. And some of their beef is legitimate, right? But also, you just got to take it how it is.
Yeah. But, man, all cried out. They should have figured out how to get that in there somehow.
Yeah.
But anyhow, that is our review of Can You Feel the Beat? The Lisa story. And, you know, let us know if there's somebody else's biopic that we should be looking at and rating and reviewing that you guys haven't seen or have seen. And we will be back with more at some point in the future. Be sure to make your suggestions. You make sure you're subscribed to all of our channels.
And if you made it this far, type Casera in the comments so we'll know you're one of the real ones who stick around to the end.
And be sure you check out one of the videos that's on the screen right now.